Hi guys, today's movie you don't hate?
So today's movie is Superman Returns. Now this weekend everybody's getting on the highly anticipated Batman vs Superman. But before Superman beats up on Batman, he was in this movie in 2006. And when it first came out, everybody was like really happy to see it come back after I think it was like 20 something years that it hadn't been on the big screen. And since this was actually a continuation and same storyline as the Christopher Reeve movies, everybody was really excited. Especially, I remember watching it and getting in there and listening to the John Williams score and all that good stuff. So it brought back a lot of memories. Kind of conflicted a little bit because Christopher Reeve was no longer there, but it is what it is. So we're going to try to defend this movie because there's a lot of comments on this movie, a lot of things that people just don't like about it. Terrence, what are your feelings on it?
Well, my feelings with this movie is that this movie catches. I mean, it's really not as bad as most people make it out to be. The movie, like you said, was continuing the old Christopher Reeve films, and I'm not sure if you watched the old Christopher Reeve films, but after two, they kind of went downhill. So this movie was a return to form, a way to get us back to what we loved about the original films. I mean, to give us that Donner type feel to a film. So that's what this movie did. So when this film gets a lot of grief for being slow, for being boring, for not having a main villain, which it totally did. But you have to think about when you watch Superman 1 and what you got with Superman 1. That's what this movie was reliving, that moment, that feel, that type of atmosphere to this film. And we've gotten so used to seeing films where, I gotta have 3 villains in it, or I gotta have him take on a whole army of something,
or teams.
That we didn't really, that we kind of got away from saying that the superhero himself is the movie.
Right.
So, and that's the reason why, I think people kind of overreact, and that's why you really don't hate this movie.
So, with that being said, scoreboard now. Now, one of the things that people didn't like about this movie was the performances. So, the first category that we got going on right now is the acting.
Really?
Really?
All right.
So let's start with.
I've already got a fence with this already.
We're not. I don't want to get into. I'm gonna wait on Brandon Routh. I'm not gonna touch Brandon Routh yet.
Okay.
But let's start with Kevin Spacey.
All right.
Okay. Now this is continuation of like you said, the Donner part of Superman, which is Superman 1, Superman 2. Donner did not direct Superman 2, but they filmed them back to back. He filmed them back to back, and actually a lot of the footage is his. So
award-winning Kevin Spacey, right?
Award-winning Kevin Spacey.
We're talking about that Kevin Spacey.
Now he was taking on Now he was technically Gene Hackman in this movie. Okay, so this takes place 5 years after Part 2 ended. So the personas are completely different. But you have to freaking understand that he was in jail the whole time, and who wouldn't want to freaking have revenge on their mind the whole time?
Okay.
So he doesn't have to be as quirky. He doesn't have to be as silly as Gene Hackman was with Ned Beatty and all that. So I thought Kevin Spacey was freaking awesome.
I think he did a great job.
I thought he was amazing.
I think nobody's Gene Hackman. So it's not that if we saw him do a Gene Hackman impression, we'd be giving him crap for saying, this is a Gene Hackman impression. He didn't bring himself to the film.
Anything new?
Yeah, exactly. So he did have a little bit of quirkiness when he did the whole thing talking to Lois on the boat. It's like, come on, give it to me one more time. Right. Say it. And it's like he brought a little bit of quirkiness when he did the whole thing when the lady he married for her money, when all right, you guys can keep this, I got everything else. And it was like he brought Lex. He gave us what we expect from Lex, and he just didn't go overboard like Gene Hackman did in some things. Gene Hackman played it serious but kind of comic booky. It was one of the greatness of Gene Hackman. But I think Kevin Spacey did a great job as Lex Luthor on this. Look at what we're getting ready to go into with Jesse Eisenberg, and you think Kevin Spacey is worse than what we're gonna get? I haven't seen the movie. I'm giving it crap already just because I just thought.
I hear good things about Eisenberg, so you never know.
All right, that's my fault. I would say okay, so yes, but behind Gene Hackman, he is our second best Lex Luthor. We had to.
Very true. Very true. Very true.
But yeah, I like Lex Luthor, and I was like, for somebody to say that he didn't do a good job, I mean, they would really have to give me more examples of what they felt like should have been in that role, because I think he delivered to us what we expected out of Lex Luthor.
Okay, let's talk about Kate Bosworth as Lois Lane.
Okay.
Now, she was I didn't think that she gave a lot of what Margot Kidder did to the role. Thought that she was a little bit bland at times here and there. But then I started thinking about, I was reading a couple articles and stuff, and I started thinking about it, and then the writers actually made some good points. She got duped. She was left with a kid. She got no freaking no support. Dude left her for 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd be pretty pissed off too.
Deadbeat Superman.
Deadbeat Superman. So I get Darth Maul in there.
Okay.
But yeah, I could understand why that particular characterization of Lois exists. I don't think it was Kate Bosworth's fault. I just think that
Poor writing to that character.
Poor writing, and given the circumstances, you could understand why she would act that way. But you know what? I mean, she was believable as a reporter.
Yeah.
I just think that since it's the same timeline, she's not believable as Margot Kidder, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I agree with people saying that her Lois Lane wasn't the best. It just wasn't. But if you think about it, in Man of Steel,
Amy Adams.
Did we really like her Lois Lane as well either? I don't think anybody. I don't think anybody's done a good job since Margot Kidder. I don't think there's been a good Lois Lane. I mean, I just think that character is really hard to follow after Margot Kidder. I mean, she defined the character. I mean, she was kind of go get it. She was strong. And I think
Terry Hatcher in Adventures of Superman with Dean Cain. Yeah.
Everybody comes off a little goofy sometimes with Lois Lane in their interpretations of it. They're either too serious or they're too goofy, and I just think that's a hard character. So I'm a little bit on the fence. It's like I really didn't get off to her portrayal as Lois Lane. I feel for her with the no child support from Superman. He just ditches the baby, goes to Krypton and doesn't come back for 5 years. Dude, he should be locked up. I'm sorry.
Okay, so
why are they not garnishing his Daily Planet salary right now?
Well, nobody knows what this is. All right. Anyway, all right. So Perry White, played by Frank Langella. Okay. He was originally played by Jackie Cooper in the 78 and part 1 and 2. So this time it's Frank Langella. Now it's Lawrence Fishburne. But what did you think about Frank Langella's performance as... I liked Jackie Cooper's performance a little bit better. I thought that Frank Langella was a little too serious. And Jackie Cooper played it like he was serious and kind of like J.K. Simmons. Okay. Jonah Jameson.
Nobody does J.K. Simmons.
But you know what I mean, right? I mean, it's like it's hardcore and all that, but it's I liked it. I mean, I thought Jackie Cooper was good.
I just think his character they didn't give his character enough to do.
I don't think so either.
He was at the Daily Planet and he was just kind of brief glimpses of him being there, and outside it, I mean, how much time did they really spend at the Daily Planet? Right. Very little. Outside of, we're getting ready to go somewhere. I'm going to the roof. Right. I mean, when we were in the Daily Planet, we saw the kid more than we saw him. So
true.
So I just don't think he gave his character enough to do. I don't think that's the fault of the acting in the film. I just think that it was they were trying to focus on other characters and not his character. So
and the same can go for Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, he didn't have anything to do with that
at all. So I mean, but he was okay. I mean, he tried. They tried to make him comic relief. It just didn't work as good, I don't think, as Mark McClure did in the originals. But you know what? It was a worthy effort. Now, let's talk about Brandon Routh. Okay. First of all, I thought Brandon Routh was excellent as Superman.
I thought he was great.
I thought that, granted it was like, and we talked about this in the past before, and we've always said that he pretty much does a Christopher Reeve impression. I think he did make it his own to a certain degree, but I thought he was great as Superman. If he faltered in anything when it came to this movie, I thought that was Bryan Singer's fault.
Okay.
More than him, because...
What did you feel was weak in it? Because I mean, not to take away from what you felt was weak, I didn't see quite the weaknesses. But what did you see?
I thought that he needed to make it his own more.
Okay.
That's what I mean by that. And but I don't think that's his fault. I think
it's because they were trying to do a sequel, and they were trying to bring back the spirit of Christopher Reeve.
But everybody's characterization's in the same timeline, since they were all doing the same timeline, and they had to perform pretty much basically as the other characters in the other shows, in the other movies. They kind of made it their own.
And I can get that, but
but do you understand what I mean?
But Superman was really, at that particular point in time, Superman was Christopher Reeve. So you could take very few liberties with something. Well, our image of Superman was Christopher Reeve. Basically, you could have been all drawings of Superman really could have been drawings of Christopher Reeve.
Right.
So like Lois, Jimmy, Perry, everybody else take a little bit of Lex Luther, take liberties with it.
But Superman,
he had to be
Christopher Reeve.
If we weren't rebooting, and that's not what we were doing. We weren't rebooting. We were going straight as a sequel. He had to. It's kind of like saying, like, okay, take liberties with being Indiana Jones, or take liberties with being Han Solo, or take liberties.
Well, that's going to happen.
Exactly.
That's going to happen pretty soon.
We're like, he didn't give us. He was too different from Han Solo. Or it's like, he was too different from Indiana Jones. Or when they get around to doing the Die Hard prequel, he's too different from Bruce Willis. Those are people. It's like, if you're going to stick them in the same universe, it's the same series. They have to. Here's a good one. You've seen Looper, right?
Yeah.
He had to do a Bruce Willis impression.
Okay, I got you. Dilute here. All right. So the verdict and who gets the point?
Oh man. I don't think the acting was bad. I just think the characters weren't written the best.
Performance-wise, you gonna give it a like or a hate?
Man. I'm on the fence on this one.
Kevin Spacey was probably the most consistent in the whole thing.
Yeah,
my opinion.
Kevin and Brandon.
They're the main protagonist and antagonist. I'm gonna give it to him.
All right, I'm gonna give it to him too.
I'm gonna give it to him.
That was
point
a tough
for
one.
like.
That was a tough one, guys. That was a tough one.
All right, the plot. Now, the plot is very similar to the 78 version of Superman. Now, the 78 version of Superman was
Save the world.
Save the world. Action limited. Not as much where he's not fighting anybody or anything. But he's put in all these different circumstances that he's got to be like freaking everywhere.
Yeah.
So pretty much the same thing. The land thing, with the land and him creating this new land, and which I don't get because you can't. It's kryptonite. It's rock, so you can't grow stuff on it. So
the reason why they went that way, the science behind, not the science for a superhero movie, but the theory behind that one is that when he threw it in Antarctica, it created the Fortress of Solitude. So it can grow. The crystals can grow,
but it can't grow food.
There wasn't food on the thing. I know, but rocks.
But he's trying to create his own freaking, Lex Luthor's trying to create his own place or whatever, and it's all rock. So who'd want to live there in the first place? I wouldn't want to live there.
You import. Heck. Okay, people live in the desert.
A lot of people say that the plot is pretty boring. It's very slow.
How do you defend that?
How do you defend that?
I take offense with that. The big action plot, or the big action set piece is what I'm trying to say. The big action set piece of the beginning of the film is him catching a freaking plane. What is boring about that? There's nothing boring about that. And then when you get into Bryan Singer, when I remember the film was first coming out, he said, I'm going to show you how indestructible Superman is. And then he showed you when he went up against a minigun and he stopped the criminals and he took the bullet to the eye directly. And it was like, what's boring about that?
We'll talk about that in a minute.
And then when you get to the point where, he had to, when we revisited the very first Superman, when he had to be in a whole bunch of places at once. What was boring about that? He's flying around. He's saving people. As many people who talk about, this was boring because he didn't do nothing. Are you the same people who complain that in Man of Steel he let people die? This Superman saved lives. He did stuff. He carried,
but we're talking about the plot.
So the plot with Lex Luthor.
Yes.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay. So the plot of the film
and the subplots too.
So Lex Luthor was basically trying to make his own land, and why is that not a Lex Luthor plot?
It's a boring plot.
Why is that not a Lex Luthor plot? Lex Luthor plots. Hold on. Lex Luthor plots. Defeat Superman, make money. Defeat Superman, make money, control, and have power. Build a land, made a kryptonite, and then charge people to live there. 1, 2, and 3. Every dang on Lex Luthor plot rolled up in one. That's a Lex Luthor plot. I'm sorry, you guys don't like Lex Luthor as a villain. That's what it is. You don't like Lex Luthor. You like, because what's funny is that, like we said in the first one, how I mimicked the first one. That's what we got in the first one. In the second one, Lex Luthor barely did anything under Zod. He was just basically like a lackey that they had with when they freed him from the I would say limbo, from the Phantom Zone. When they freed him from the Phantom Zone, I mean, he didn't do anything in the second one. That's what Lex Luthor. I mean, Lex Luthor. That's what he is. So they gave us Lex Luthor back. That was his grand scheme. And he made it out of kryptonite, so that way Superman couldn't stop him.
So one of the biggest,
I think it was a good plot.
One of the biggest disappointments was the subplot of Superman having a kid.
Okay.
Now, in Superman, at the end of Superman 2, now I saw this movie, and actually I talked about this briefly. It's at the end of Superman 2 when she's asking for a hamburger or cheeseburger at 9 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. People in the audience, like the women in there, were like clapping, and they were like, really, wow, that's awesome, this and that, right? That was in, what, 1980? 80?
Oh, so now the kid only, is that you?
No, but what I'm saying is that back then, when I saw this in the movie theater and everybody was actually applauding the fact and the idea that Superman was having a baby with her, everybody liked it. So now you fast forward, and regardless of it being 5 years later or whatever in that universe, fast forward, nobody liked it. Nobody liked it having a kid in it.
I'll explain why people didn't like it. The reason why is because the people who saw that movie back then weren't that generation. As kids who saw the film, who would have loved the film about Superman at that time, are now grown, and we're all comic book snobs now. That's what it is. We're all comic book snobs now, and we're like, oh, Superman doesn't have a kid. Superboy is a clone of Superman. If you go Superman Prime, then Superman Prime is actually just Superman from another Earth. So, Superman doesn't have a kid, and we're all stuck on the fact that we read the comic books and Superman doesn't have a kid. Yes, I didn't like it either. I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't like it either. It didn't kill the movie for me. I was bothered by that. It didn't kill the movie for me. I thought it would have been better if it had just been her kid with the dude that she married. Mm-hmm. And might as well just do that, and then Superman having to deal with her moving on after he left. That would have been a better idea to make it him. But I guess Bryan Singer was like, well, let me give them some type of something to deal with, some type of a kind of gotcha twist moment at the end, and it's like, oh, it's his kid. So, but I mean, it's a valid point to not like that. Okay, not like that subplot.
The stuff that happened in Superman 2 with them being together intimately and doing all this other stuff, that is canon. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and he was just continuing the whole end of Superman 2. With the cheeseburger at 9 in the morning.
People take liberties with canon. We're not gonna get verbatim stories from the comic book, and he took a liberty. It was a bad liberty to take, but he took a liberty with a character. He probably shouldn't, knowing that, like I said, the people who read the comic books back then are now grown, and they're the ones who speak the loudliest, and they're actually the ones spending the money on the film. So it was hater like.
Who got the point? On plot.
I was okay.
And that includes the kid. I had to hate. Tied 1-1.
Hate. Oh God. All right. I want to defend it. I didn't hate the Luther thing, but the subplot with the kid was a bit much.
Okay. Mm-hmm. The action.
Okay.
The action in this movie. Now, a lot of people think that it's not very, action-packed. No, it's not. Is it Man of Steel? I mean, look at Man of Steel. I thought Man of Steel was less is, should have gone the less is more approach, but they went all out when it came to the action. And sometimes it was a little bit too much, to be honest with you.
Because they were feeling it from Returns.
Yeah, I know, but it didn't work for me as much. But anyway, but the way they went about it as far as the action sequences were actually pretty freaking good. the airplane scene is my favorite scene in the entire movie. I mean, that was amazing, especially when he was flying side by side and the freaking plane is spinning while he's right next to it. That was an amazing scene, and the music was intense before it. It was just an awesome scene.
That scene was so amazing that they actually redid it in Supergirl, the TV show.
Did they really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
She catches a plane and she lands it in the.
You know, that's a baseball field, is it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. She goes through. She flips the plane and decided to go through the bridge, to go through the wires through the bridge, so that way she didn't hit the bridge. But I mean, basically, it was the same damn thing. And she catches the plane, and it was. Now it was so boring that they actually did it in another TV show.
Terrence brought up the machine gun. That was a really great action sequence when he. Now I would have liked to see even more come out of that one, but when he flew in front of that and it was coming in slow motion and you can see him coming through and catch all those bullets with his chest, awesome.
Yeah,
Shot him in the eye, awesome.
Shot him in the eye. I mean, you like I said, we talk about how indestructible Superman is. Like Bryan Singer said, I'm going to show you. I'm going to absolutely show you. And he kept ramping it up. He did that. Like you say, the plane. He did the machine gun thing. And then we moved on him, catching a plane, coming up against kryptonite, which is where a lot of people have some issues with, because normally in TV shows and in comic books, I was like, oh, it's a little bit of kryptonite, I feel weak.
Yeah.
He got stabbed by kryptonite, broke it off, and then he picks up a kryptonite island, so it was a little loose with how weak he can get to kryptonite. But the action with it made you feel intense, and you were like, oh man, he's really going to do this, and this is how he's fighting back. Even the whole thing with him just fighting crime, period.
When he went underground too, when all the stuff was going on, he was underground and he went through the fire, and then he caught and passed the fire
and turned around and blew it out.
Yeah, that was awesome. I freaking loved it. So action sequences, I'm gonna give it to like.
Okay.
All right, point like 2-1. CGI effects. Now this movie was. Okay, he has some pretty good effects.
Okay.
Those action sequences, those effects, especially the machine gun part, amazing. They were freaking awesome. The bullet to the eye was freaking sweet.
Right.
So I didn't have no problem with any of the CGI, to be honest with you. There was some kind of missteps here and there, nothing major, but overall, you know what? Even the effects of having Marlon Brando as Jor-El, I mean, that was a good, nice little touch.
Yeah, because they paid Marlon Brando a grip to get him to do that movie, so they're going to keep using them clips all they can. They're going to keep using them clips over and over again to get their money back on it, but I just saw the movie right now, and it holds up. It holds up. There's no trust me, we watched a lot of movies where the effects don't hold up. The effects on this film hold up, and this was a CGI heavy film, which is impressive. What is this film now, like 10 years old?
10 years old?
It's 10 years old now, because like 2006. And for 10 years, I watched the movie last weekend. It just came out and the effects are suspect already. Or even the week before, Gods of Egypt and Allegiant, they had suspect CGI. 10 years old. It's 10 years older technology, and the effects still hold up. The look of this film is fine.
So who gets the point?
The point goes to Light.
Light all day. 3, 2, 1. It's a landslide so far. I think it's being... Now, obviously the scenes of the airplane was my favorite scene, but my favorite thing about this was the music.
All right.
Now, so we're gonna give it up to music now. John Williams had this freaking awesome theme that is just personified, really, in a way, the essence of Superman.
Right.
So, like I said before, the movie had been on the screen for 20-something years, and to hear that music on the freaking blasting like that was just freaking awesome.
You're gonna tell me John Williams had a bad score?
No, it was a great score.
No, I was like, who's gonna tell you that?
Oh no,
who's ever gonna tell you that?
I've read some people actually complain about it because there was no, there was no Christopher Reeve, so you don't need that music anymore.
He was playing the same character. He was playing the same character. Look, it's ridiculous for somebody to say the music in this film was bad. It's absolutely ridiculous. If they got other gripes with this film, if you want to say that, you know what, you didn't like his suit, because I mean that's a little minor gripe, is that kind of didn't like the design of his suit.
Well, I like the suit. I just thought the S was too small.
Yeah, it was way too small for me. But the music was fine. I mean, there's this. This is the person that we can't make a Star Wars film without. This is a person we can't sit through an Indiana Jones film without. This is a person we basically have on the Hall of Fame of music scores. Period. Wait, didn't he do Jaws too?
Yes, he did.
Did Jaws too? Come on!
Yes,
John Williams doesn't do bad scores. The music of this film was fine. And like you said, if you want to grab about that, he did a theme song that he used in the previous ones. He used that in this score too. When he used it for Christopher Reeve, and he should have came up with another one. He played the same character,
same timeline, same
timeline, the exact same character. So it made no sense to change the song because now it's disjointed now because it was a completely different Superman theme song. And I'm sure he retooled it a little bit. It obviously sounded the same, but I'm sure it was retooled just a tiny bit to make it a little bit different. But really, we wanted to hear that iconic song.
Yeah, I want to see it now.
Tell me what
I want to hear it now.
Tell me what the Man of Steel theme song is. Exactly.
It's a Hans Zimmer song. It's actually okay. It's not too bad. But you go to YouTube and search Man of Steel trailer with the John Williams score. The freaking movie looks awesome. Mm-hmm. I mean, the trailer is just amazing with that score. And I don't know why. I know they went reboot, but they should have just kept the dang score. You know, I thought Danny Elfman's score on freaking Batman should have never changed, but you can't take away Hans Zimmer's score for Dark Knight because it's freaking amazing.
Well, he said that it was written specifically for that style of movie.
Right, exactly. But the Superman theme that can go to either one. I think that could go to either one. Yeah. So I'm definitely giving on music.
Ridiculous, as somebody was saying it, ain't it?
And the score is done 4-1.
Landslide.
On like.
Landslide. You don't hate this movie. You may have issues with it.
Yeah, you might have gripes. You might have things that you don't agree with, but you don't hate this movie.
And I was actually watching something, and people were just going on and on. And they actually review movies, and they were just going on and on about how they felt like this movie was complete garbage. And I'm like, what movie did you watch? What movie did you watch? And it's the same people who I'm not gonna discredit them, but I'm just saying is that but people sit and they just pounce on films just for the simple fact that mob mentality. Oh, some people didn't like it, so I'm not gonna like it as well just because I want to follow suit with them. And it's like, come on, you could be a person that says, hey, I enjoyed the film. People went and saw this film. I mean, they could have done better in the theaters, but people went and saw it. People, because they wanted to see it. Nobody walked out like, oh, I hated that movie. They were just like, oh, I didn't want him to have a son. And I gave you the point for that. I didn't want him to have a son. Sorry.
So going by the score, going by everything he just said,
yeah,
you really don't hate this movie.
Of course you don't.
So stay tuned next time when we will be doing Daredevil for our good buddy at G Dan Artist, Mr. Dan Gorman from the Altered Realm show. We talked about it, and we're going to do Daredevil just for him. So, Terrence, take us home.
All right. So, like you said, we already know what we're going to do next, or well, I hope it's next week, right? Cross the fingers. But we want to know some other suggestions as far as films that you maybe like that other people don't like that we can actually talk about, because we probably like them too, to where we can help defend them, so that way we're with you. But make sure you like and subscribe this one. Let us know if you like this film, if it was a particular topic that you felt like we could have went a different way on it. Go ahead and put it down in our comments, and make sure you subscribe. If you're currently watching this right now and you're not a subscriber, subscribe, so that way you can not only find out when we actually post more You Don't Hate film videos, but also two other things, because we also do an actual topic podcast, the Goods podcast, as well as our Star Wars Rule of Two that we're actually, you'll see on there as well. But that's all I got. So for I'm Terrence.
I'm Manny. See you next time.
Take it easy. Hi guys. Fucking shit. Just go with it. All right.
Count us again.
Hi guys. Today's movie you don't hate.